Hello and welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, KK Konashiro. As the California primary elections approach on March 3rd, efforts are underway to raise awareness of the importance of young people making their voices heard through their votes. Recognizing the important role students will have in the future direction of our country and schools, the League of Women Voters have partnered to hold registration drives in an effort to bring Fremont Unified students to the polls. Here to speak about the work being done at FUSD High Schools are Mission San Jose High School Junior, Alvin Lee, Irvington High School Senior, Vidushi Mishra, Irvington High School Government and Economics teacher Lauren Mattingly, and representing the League of Women Voters and the Youth Voter Movement is Julie Dunkel. Thank you so much for being here. This is so exciting. Are you excited about this process?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to hear from you two specifically for this first question. What made you get involved? It is very important that our young people get involved with our government and our community, because you are our future, okay? But as you individually, what made your decision to get more involved with this process?
Sure. So I started speech and debate from a pretty young age, and because of that, I've always had an early exposure into like policies and the government as a whole. And then because of that, I was able to learn about like different populations that vote and how they actually go and affect certain like outcomes of elections, what policies are passed, things like that. And then this year for my Quest project at Irvington, I decided to focus on lack of civics education in K through 12 schools. And so because like voting is a big part of civics education, I've noticed that like younger populations especially are not voting as much as they should be, which is kind of concerning considering the fact that we're probably going to be the ones that are going to deal with a lot of these problems in the future and actually face the consequences of bills that are passed right now. And so that's why I decided to, for like my service of my Quest project, I decided to help host like voter registration drives and another rally to go encourage youth voting and things like that.
Amazing. Alvin?
So I've always been really passionate about education advocacy and education policy specifically, and organizing around it, like some of the organizing we did for the teacher negotiations last March. And so there is a very natural segue because one of the campaigns we're really focusing right now on is Schools and Communities First, which is the Prop 13 reform measure, and a big part of that campaign effort is to actually turn out an unprecedented 1 million newly young registered millennial voters. Now that's the dream. Whether it's going to happen, it's always good to work towards it. And so along with that, that also couples with the real importance behind voter registration, really youth turning out to vote, because at the end of the day, this is our future. We do live in a democracy. In order for a democracy to really work, at its fundamental core, we all need to participate as a collective. And voting is our responsibility.
Now, 18 is the magic year where all these young people get excited and I can actually register to vote. Oh my God, my first one. This is so exciting. I remember mine. It was fun. When you are doing your drives and you have a 16-year-old in front of you or a 17-year-old in front of you, what words of encouragement do you give these fellow students of yours? Well, I'm only 16. I don't know anything. I don't know what this is about. Am I really that important to the vote? What would you say to them?
I would say that don't undermine the power of their vote, because it is their voice. The 2016 elections could have been drastically different if young people turn out to vote, and even still today, millennials and our age group have the lowest voter turnout among all the different age groups in America. And so I think beyond anything, what you should be telling high schoolers is that, look, if you're not voting, then you're not letting your voice be heard. And if you're not letting your voice be heard, then you're sort of not really fulfilling your responsibility as an American citizen.
How do you feel? Same thing?
I agree with Alvin completely, and I think that pre-registering as a 16 or 17-year-old is taking the right steps to go out and vote when you're 18. And just because you can't necessarily vote right now doesn't mean that you can't be involved in your community. There's a lot of different ways that you can become involved in politics. You can go lobby, you can go like find internships with legislators, things like that. And then also, even if you don't think your vote necessarily matters as much on a national level, on a local level, it matters like a lot more.
It's huge.
Yeah, exactly, because there's only so many of us here, especially because there are so many young people.
Right.
And so if people understand that their voice matters a lot on the local level, then I think that they're going to be more encouraged to go and pay attention to what's happening right now. Because ultimately, like, yes, the national government is making like policies that affect all of us, but every day we're more affected by local policies, which we have a huge say in.
Bravo, bravo. Okay, now, how did this whole voter registration drive happen? How did you partner up with the League of Women Voters? How did this partnership come about?
I can speak to that one.
Okay.
So one of my students, Elaine Ian, she actually is doing her Quest project, which is a senior benchmark project at Irvington High School. So her social issue that she picked was voter suppression. And so that was something that she has to do service with. And so I actually mentioned that I worked with Julie Dunkel here on last year's voter registration drive. So I gave her email and sort of set them up. And then that's how it all started.
Match made in heaven?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, they were able to come up with this idea of this march on like March 1st for right before our California primaries. And so, yeah, they've been working really hard at it. And it all started with that, you know, giving her the email and that project, yeah.
How many drives have you guys done so far?
This year we've completed 7.
Wow. And what is the average signups?
I don't have the average signups, but I have the.
Please.
We registered 2,801
That's amazing.
students in the 7 drives.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and out of that, a little over 2,000 were from Fremont Unified.
Perfect. Now, does every high school have these drives or just the
Most of the high schools.
Most
yeah,
of the
we
high
just
schools.
missed one this year.
Okay. And then you're going to have another one on March 1st, right?
No, what we did now was we registered 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and then on March 1st, they're going to do a Get Out the Vote rally.
Nice.
So then all the students are going to come, and I'll let them explain that a little bit more. But this is more of a fun activity, a social activity.
More of a celebration.
A lot of stuff going on. And part of it is voting.
Okay. Now, where is the rally going to be held at?
Yeah, so all of us are going to gather at the Alameda County Library, so the main one in Fremont.
On Stevenson?
And so there will be a lot of different things going on. We'll be making posters for the march. Also, we'll be addressing issues like voter suppression by mailing postcards to people who've been removed from their voting lists and don't necessarily know about it. There's also just going to be like food, music, t-shirts, giveaways, so it'll be pretty cool. And just like a get-together event, and then after that, we're all going to go and march to City Hall, where people who can vote are going to mail in their ballots just in time for the March primaries.
That's great. Now, as a teacher, legislative issues, bills, candidates can be confusing, a daunting task to research. How do you tell young people step by step? This is very systematic. It can be systematic. It can be easily understood. But for these 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and 18-year-olds who are like, this is a foreign world to me, and it's daunting, how do you help them understand that this is your process of life, that it's part of life, it's something you're going to have to do the rest of your life?
Yeah, I think Voodoo, she knows, because she's also my student, she knows best that I've had to say this over and over again, that, you know, politics dictates everything in your life, like down to like, you know, if I hear people complaining about like potholes in their streets, you know, that's politics right there. It's city politics, and that's really important, and it affects you on a daily basis. All that stuff, it affects you. And so I try really hard throughout the year to teach them about things that really are relevant to them, and try to make it connect more personally, so that way they feel more of a personal connection to the law and politics. So that's one thing I do for sure. And then just different activities to try to get them excited about it. So whether it's, you know, a simple activity, instead of just telling them about legislation, you know, getting them to do their own research, you know, where they take their own social issue that they're researching for their Quest project, for example, and researching legislation that's out there. Like to just see sort of a connection between the two. So really just make that as personal as possible, because that's what's going to get anybody interested. I have friends who are not even interested and who are in like their 30s. I mean, I'm part of that group, the millennial group that doesn't vote. So, yeah, I mean, not me personally. I'm part of the millennials. But yeah, so I see it every day. It's not just in high schools that you see the lack of interest in politics and government and legislation. You see it everywhere. You can see it with the voter turnout. just in general. Yes, 18 to 29 is the lowest voter turnout by far, but it's still just low in general across the board. So
But I love how you stated it affects every aspect of your life. When you're buying food, when you are dealing with potholes, your neighbors making their music too loud. I mean, it's every part of your life, and I think that hits the nail on the button or the stone there. Go ahead, please.
You mentioned about the youth being the smallest percentage of turnout. In this last midterm, California had a 300% increase.
It was amazing.
Yeah, and nationwide it was 100%. I mean, it was an 80% increase, but it was this hasn't happened for 100 years.
Wow.
So right now the seniors have the biggest voting block.
Yeah.
But they increased their voting at 3%.
Wow.
And
you guys did more.
the younger ones have increased it significantly more. So if
Right.
that trend continues,
Right.
then
Okay, kids.
that's a
do this, right?
great opportunity.
And the biggest thing is to let them know that they are, as of right now, especially with Gen Z and millennials, I mean, we're the largest generations, especially together, yet we're not really voicing what we want through voting. So who better to voice that opinion about what you want in the government and, what your needs and your wants are by just doing voting and just, that process. And that's really, really important for, I think, the students to understand that part,
Right.
is that's how you get your voice out there,
Right.
and is through voting, and that will hopefully, affect your everyday life in a positive way.
Yeah. And I think hearing from their own peers
Yeah.
makes a big difference. Now, since the other schools are involved, do you guys meet on a regular basis to make sure each campus is doing what they're supposed to do, or do you just do it individually? How does this work?
We've kind of been doing the grassroots
Okay.
sort of approach, and on Saturdays the students have come together probably about a half a dozen Saturdays at my house. And they share what they're doing at each school,
Nice.
share ideas, they come up with the ideas for the march. This year the students they got up and trained their peers on how to fill out the registration
Oh,
forms.
nice.
So they had to be trained to do that.
Right.
So they did role plays
Okay.
and critiqued each other. So there's been a lot of background work and sharing ideas. And
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So are you guys excited to vote?
Yes. Just gotta wait one more year.
One more year. But you're all registered.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Pre-registered. Yeah. Yeah.
Pre-registered. Good. Now, are your fellow students excited about the rally as well? Do you have a good feeling about this? A good turnout?
I do have a couple friends who are pretty excited
Yeah?
about it. Yeah.
Good. What do your
So-
parents think?
My parents think that it's really crazy that we're actually doing it. Because I told them that it was 100% it was very student driven. And so that was very cool to them. They were
Yeah.
like, oh, people don't usually do things like this. And so they're excited about it, and they have kept that free. I was like, we can't go to anyone's house on the 1st. Please keep that day free for me. They were like, yeah, of course. So they're
Nice.
pretty excited.
In your family?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty excited. I think it's a really fresh perspective for them because both of my parents are immigrants from China.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot more different form of governance. And so I think really exercising your right to vote here, I think it's a very new sort of feeling for them, but I think they really enjoy it. I think they're
That's
really
good.
supportive of youth getting involved because they were actually involved in the Tiananmen student protests
Yeah.
back in the 1980s. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I hope your parents join you at the rally so they get the fever.
I'll drag them out there.
Okay, good. That's exciting.
we're also asking the students to bring their younger siblings,
Oh, smart.
so they can kind of participate in the process
Yeah.
as well. And we have young,
That's brilliant.
I'm gonna future voter stickers and
Oh, that's awesome.
posters for them.
Yeah.
And another thing we have is we're having electeds attend. So
Perfect.
and they've been told you're not campaigning. What you're coming to do is listen and ask questions.
Yes.
So this is an opportunity for the youth to be able to tell their
And find out they're real
electeds.
human beings, too.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then they'll join with them in volunteering and
Yeah,
doing the
perfect.
voter suppression. and-
Perfect.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. You guys did great. Congratulations. I wish you well on the rally. This is going to be so exciting. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
From everyone here at Community Conversations, we appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you.